2 minutes. One minute.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for being here. My name is Randy Pyle. I'm a Public Information Officer with, thank you, Public Information Officer with Northwest Team 6. Want to thank everybody for their continued support. The firefighters out there, they're working really hard, and they're seeing all the signs that you guys are making. It really lifts their spirit, keeps them motivated. Tonight, we're here in person. We're also live on Facebook. So I want to thank folks for joining us on Facebook. Before we start, real quick, there's 3 emergency exits. You guys all came in one. Most you guys are locals. You've been here before, but 2 right next to the bleachers that you're sitting on, and 1 right back here. Should there be something that happens, those are your exit points, and bathrooms are out your main entrance. Before we get going too much further, special mention, Heather Buck, County Commissioner. Thank you for joining us, you guys. This just goes to show how important this is, right? This is really important for the community. That's why we want to be here. We understand the importance of accurate and timely information, and that's what we want to bring to you here tonight. So what we've got a panel over here lined up of subject matter experts, firefighters, people who have been in this business for quite a long time. They're going to come up. Some of them are actually in charge of this fire. They wanted to be here so you guys could have access to them, because we want to be transparent. We want to let you know what's going on. With that, I'm not going to stay up here too much longer, but we're going to hold all questions until the end. If you were here at the last community meeting, we're going to do the same format. Rather than passing the mic around in the bleachers, we're going to let you get up and meet everybody face to face. You can ask your questions. You're going to have to pay attention to make sure you know which one you're talking to. But anyway, ask around. We've got a lot of folks here that can answer your questions. With that, I won't bug you anymore. I'll bring up our first group of speakers. It's our agency administrators.
Thanks, Randy. Good evening, everybody. My name is Ian Reed, and I am an agency administrator representing the Willamette National Forest on the Lookout Fire. A lot has changed in the last week since we had our last public meeting here, and so we wanted to get you all up to speed. First, we'd like to thank you all for your patience and your understanding during this time. We empathize with what you're going through. We have about 60 Forest Service employees right now that are in some evacuation level status. Many of these employees, like you all, have gone through past fires in the area, including most recently the Holiday Farm fire. There are some local Forest Service leaders in the audience that will be here after the incident management teams leave. Darren Cross, the McKenzie District Ranger, Dan Trapanese, the Fire Management Officer, and Dwayne Bishop, the Deputy Forest Supervisor for the Willamette National Forest. Please connect with those folks if you can stay after the meeting and talk to them and ask them questions about what's going on. Tonight is an opportunity to get facts and to have your questions answered, and we really hope you take advantage of that. Number one priority in wildfire management is always firefighter and public safety, every time. And the highest priority value on the Lookout Fire are the communities of the Upper McKenzie, the communities of McKenzie Bridge, Rainbow, and Blue River, the communities to which many of you belong. That's our number one priority for this incident. Before I turn it over to the next speaker, I'd like to go back to firefighter safety. The Willamette National Forest has had 2 firefighter fatalities over the last 2 years, and that's something the forest takes extremely seriously. Before I turn it over to Agency Administrator Klein, I'd just like to give a quick summary of the wildland fire triangle. It's fuels, weather, and topography, and that might be a little bit different than the fire triangle you learned when you were young. Usually, if 1 or 2 of those things cooperate, you can catch a fire pretty quickly. When all 3 of those things don't cooperate, you end up with a really challenging incident. And that's where we are right now with the Lookout Fire. Over the last 12 days, those 3 factors have not cooperated, and currently they are starting, which you'll hear today from some of our specialists, they are starting to cooperate and get in a better situation. So thank you for being here. We understand and we empathize with what you're going through.
Thanks, Ian. Good evening, folks. My name is Chris Klein. I'm District Forester for the Oregon Department of Forestry. And so we have a protection responsibility, probably for most of your lands, for the private protection, private landowners that are up in this area and across the district. And I would like to acknowledge that my agency is here. We're heavily engaged. We are present. You may not see us. We're not down in town around your houses, but we are, and around your properties, we're up on the hill. And so this fire isn't even actually to our protection yet. But yet, we are engaged. We don't want it to get to our protection. We do not want it to get to your homes. We do not want it to get to your timberlands. And so I have folks from my district, specialized people, heavily engaged up on the hill in partnership with the U.S. Forest Service, trying to keep this from ever making it to your place in the first place. So even though you may not see our badges floating around, like you might think we'd be down around your houses, we don't want it to ever get there. So we're up on the hill. Another thing that I'd like to let you know, if you weren't aware, there is a heavy industrial component. So there are several owners in this area that are your neighbors. Justina Resources and Justina Land and Timber. And those people are amazing community members and partners to you. They're up there on the hill in conjunction with us in the Forest Service. They have got their employees and their timber company owners involved daily. They have their loggers. They have their equipment. They are highly invested to protect your community. They are great neighbors, and I hope you folks realize what a true gem they are. And then I guess finally, I just want to let you know that I sympathize, kind of like Ian said, I sympathize with you. I've been here for a long time. I grew up in Southern Oregon in Douglas County. I've been up in this area about 9 years. And I realized I was here for the holiday farm fire, and I realized the angst and the tragedy that happened. I sympathize with you. I hurt deeply for the smoke and the fire on the hill, and we are doing absolutely everything we can do to try to keep this away from your homes. I will stick around afterwards as long as I need to talk to you, and thank you again for taking the time to come here tonight.
Good evening. I'm Claire McGrew, Agency Administrator for Oregon State Fire Marshal's Office. I see some folks leaning in, so I'll try to make sure I keep the microphone close. I won't go into some of the same comments as what my fellow agency administrators have mentioned. I think a lot of us have had some similar experiences here, and we certainly are thoughtful about what you're going through. My agency, we're the structural component of this unified effort here in your community. So we don't have firefighters in our agency. We have responsibility for mobilization. So we work with Oregon's 306 fire agencies in the state. Every county has its own fire defense board chief. So the way that we got here was when your local fire chief connected with your fire defense board chief, and who then directly connected with us. We mobilized 9 task forces to come and assist, and so you will see us in your communities. So if there is something that we can do when we're out and about, we would love to help answer questions or help to get you connected with next pieces. We serve a different part of the role from what Chris and Ian bring as well. We certainly have, again, the community aspect. We help to make sure that structural protection and the community assets are protected so that they can actually help to do their job up on the hill as well. We want to make sure that we're all working together in every manner possible. We have some resources are here not only from Oregon. Of course, when your fire broke out, the weather patterns here certainly were high, and there were high fire behavior challenges in the state of Oregon, so a lot of communities could not send firefighters. But you have folks in your community right now from as far north as Tillamook and Clatsop County, and we actually have some California resources that came to help as well, so you'll see those in the yellow trucks out there in the field as well. So please make sure if you see them out in the field, please say hello, ask them questions. They would love to help. They're helpful. They're there to help you build defensible space, help to do some structural triage, and my partners down here will help to mention that. I also will be around here until the end, so if you have any questions about what our agency can do, please let me know. And again, my thoughts are with everything that you're going through here today.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Steve Bregman, and I am one of the Unified Incident Commanders that's here managing the Lookout Fire. Wanted to talk to you a little bit about Unified Command and what we're doing. As you heard, I represent the Oregon State Fire Marshal and the Blue Incident Management Team. As was mentioned, we focus on structural protection. All the folks that are working, all the firefighters are coming from those structural departments across the state. And what it allows us to do is bring in our subject matter expertise of structures and unify with our forestry partners. So when we're in this wildland urban interface, we can most effectively respond to the threats out there. And so by being unified, we can collectively work together. We're stronger together, bringing those two areas of those two disciplines together. As was mentioned, we've got 9 task forces. They've come from all across the state. And we have a very robust what's called OFMAS, or the Oregon Fire Mutual Aid System. And that system allows us to surge those resources. So as was mentioned, we've got fire agencies here from Tillamook County, Clatsop County, Yamhill, Deschutes, Marion, and Clackamas. And then on top of that, after the governor declared the Conflagration Act, we were able to go into what's called an EMAC, or an Emergency Management Assistance Compact, and that brought up additional task forces from California. So we're looking very good right now with the structural resources that we have on scene. The crews have been out doing a tremendous amount of work, and we're in a really good spot. That being said, you might see in the next couple days rigs moving around, looking like they're leaving. They're not. We're moving. Our camp is kind of busting at the seams right now. And so the camp that's up at the airstrip in Bridge River, we've overloaded that. And so we've now got another camp that we're looking at in Walterville, and we'll be building that out and having more of the resources down there. So you'll see stuff shuffling around. We will get to a point where we do get the structure protection to a point where we can release resources. We want to get those resources back into the system. One of the first ones that will go will be the Lane County Task Force. They've been here the longest. And so kind of first in, they're going to be first out to get them some R&R, get them refreshed and back into the system. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my forestry counterpart.
Good evening. My name's Adam Veal. I'm the Deputy Incident Commander for Northwest Team 6. I just want to take a moment and acknowledge the stress and anxiety if you guys are in a level 1, 2, or 3 evacuation. That's a big deal. Part of my job every morning is I give the briefing, and I give leaders intent, and behind me is what we call the incident objectives. And the first one of those incident objectives is the community that's at risk, which is Mackenzie and all the ones that follow downriver from there. And we acknowledge it, but also we acknowledge it because we're in the community right upriver from you at the airstrip. So it's really easy for me to turn around and I'm talking about that and say the fire's right there and the community's right behind us. So we want to know that we're serious when we're there and we're staying in this community. With that, I just kind of want to give you a little update of how we got here. So we took the fire over the 13th at 0600, and that evening, about 8 o'clock, we started going to level 3 evacuations. That night, Lane County Defense Board had a couple of surge task force. They immediately came in and started to support us with the Sheriff's Department. That evening, though, also is the Conflagration Act was established, and we knew that the blue team was coming in. That's a really big deal for us, because we know when they show up, we're going to go unified, which is a kind of those buzzwords, which means we're integrating with each other. So it's two teams integrating together with one mission, doing two separate purposes. If you don't see us, that's good, because we're doing our job, which is we're up on the hills fighting the fire, and they're making sure that they're protecting the houses. Without them, we can't do that because we have to fall back and protect houses. So that's how we work together. And with that, I'll hand it off. Thank you.
I'm going to try and hold the mic up a little bit better this time. I got that feedback, but thank you. So we're going to try something different. We're going to try and patch our meteorologist in live stream. He really wanted to be here, but he couldn't make it, unfortunately. If we do have some connectivity issues, though, we'll go to a contingency plan. But Tom Wright, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Yes, my name is Tom Wright. I'm an incident meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I come out of Medford. And I was here, like others have said, for the holiday farm fires. And my first thought was, oh my gosh, how are they feeling? You know, what are they feeling like up there? So you were first on my mind when I saw the fire break out, having spent a couple of weeks up here on the holiday farm fire. So you heard about the fire behavior triangle, and weather is one of the most variable parts of that. So we bring a meteorologist like myself out to try and deal with the weather part. And we're coming out of a historic heat wave, which had high temperatures, as you all know, up near 100 degrees or over 100 degrees in some locations, very dry air and some offshore or easterly winds. And luckily we're kind of climbing out of that now. It was still kind of hot today, but we did get some rain on the fire this morning, which although it wasn't much, we'll certainly take anything we can get at this time of the year. And I don't know exactly how much rain we got, but it was enough to wet the ground in many locations, but that's going to help us start to climb out of this heat wave. We've held temperatures down a little bit today. Humidities have been up a little bit. The winds have been lighter and more variable than they had been for the last few days. So that's where we are now, and I've got a weather matrix that I think they're going to pull up for you, and there it is. And although this can be kind of an eye chart, it's really easy to follow along because, as you might imagine, it's green good, red bad. So this is based on the Pebble Ross, which is a weather station that's just east of the fire. And the reason we use this site is because we have decades of weather history that we can correlate with fire conditions. And so where you have green on the chart there, its conditions are favorable for suppression or unfavorable for fire activity. And where they're yellow, that's elevated burning conditions. And then where they're red, that kind of helps the fire along. So it's pretty easy to see from the back. You don't have to know what these numbers mean, but you can tell which parameters, whether it's temperature, humidity, or wind, are bad or good, and on which days. And so the good news is, having come out of this historic heat wave now, we're going into a pattern that's more typical for this time of the year around here, with high temperatures just a little bit above normal. So we're kind of still in that elevated burning condition category for temperatures. Humidities are also somewhat problematic, but not nearly as bad as they have been for the last week or so. And the westerly flow coming in, while gusty, and we don't really want windy conditions, certainly, it's helping to bring in some higher humidities, especially at night. And so our recoveries, we call them, which is the degree to which the humidity rises at night, is getting better as we go through. So that's helping us out there. It's not terribly unstable. We don't have any chance of rain really for the next week, but conditions are definitely moderated. And so that's going to help us out here for the firefighting effort, we think. And we're just going to have to watch those winds, watch those humidities. But all in all, compared to where we've been and compared to where we could be, we're doing pretty well. So that's what I've got for you, and I hope you have a good day. Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Spencer Ware, Fire Behavior for Team 6. And if we could put the map of the fire back up for me. So we're going to take a trip around perimeter of the fire tonight. I'm going to generally explain the fire behavior that we're seeing out there and what we're projecting out for the next couple periods. Starting off, we're going to do on the west side of the fire, this side. The fire edge is going to continue to back and flank across the hillside towards Mills Creek and 2633 on the south aspect. As we jump over into Outlook Creek, this west edge is going to continue to back down and start coming across the hillside and work its way to J.H. Andrews Work Center. This fire behavior is going to primarily be surface fire. And if we get the right weather parameters, we could start seeing some torching trees. But for right now, we're predicting it's primarily a surface fire. As we go up here to the north side of the fire, primarily the fire edge is still down in Lookout Creek. That again is going to be a backing fire down into the drainage. It's a surface fire. Haven't seen a whole lot of torching quite yet on this edge, but it will continue down the slope towards Lookout Creek. As we move towards the east here, the fire edge did move across last night the upper reaches of Lookout drainage. Came over Frizzell Ridgeline and is currently sitting in the headwaters of Budworm Creek and Frizzell Creek. There's spots up in there. Now the fire behavior in there, in that steep terrain, it's starting to align with the slope. And we're not only have surface fire, but the fire's getting up into group tree torching. And it's making runs uphill in multiple trees catching on fire. As we come down to the south part of the fire, our main objective for trying to control it, we're seeing backing off the top of Lookout Ridge down towards 0700 Road. It will also continue to move westward with the weather trends, the winds, it'll move eastward across the slope. Fire behavior that you can see there, as we all know, it's steep terrain. And so it's going to get into pockets of fuel, primarily from the surface. And then it's going to get up in those trees, and it's going to run back uphill to the top. And it'll do that progressively with our main winds blowing from the west. It'll continue to move towards the east. All right, thank you.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Brent Wachter, and I am an air resource advisor. And I know all of you are very interested in that smoke forecast, and that's our primary purpose when we're here on the incident. And we do have the lookout fire, but that's not the only fire in town. And so we have to take a look at not only fires in the immediate area, but we have to look beyond. And certainly we're talking with the fire behavior analysts. We've got Tom, the IMET, the incident meteorologist that we consult quite often. But we're also talking to those same people on other fires as well, like the Bedrock Fire. And so I do have some good news. And the good news is our smoke concentrations have trended down over the past few days, especially from yesterday to today. And when we do our smoke forecasts, we use this index called the Air Quality Index. 5 categories separated by colors, and I'll show you, we've got the forecast for the next 2 days up there. Green is good, and red is unhealthy, and the highest category, the most concentrated smoke, is hazardous. Very unhealthy and hazardous is but what you have been experiencing here, especially in the McKenzie River drainage the past few days. And that was a large result of the fire behavior activity that was quite robust in those previous few days. But we've seen some of that fire activity kind of temper down a little bit, not quite as much smoke production. And we're also expected to see a little more favorable winds over the next few days that it will help to ventilate that smoke and push it off a little bit. So as far as today, I talked about the trend, that it was a lot better. We were about 1 to 2 categories less today than what we were the previous few days. And then the forecast on the left is Friday, tomorrow, and then the furthest one over there is for Saturday. And you notice where the cleaner area is back to the northwest, because that's where the wind direction is coming from. Unfortunately for the folks that are here in this room, we're talking the McKenzie River drainage area. We were so close in between the Bedrock and Lookout fires that a lot of that smoke will lay down at night and will drain in. So unfortunately, we're looking at unhealthy conditions still tomorrow. I'm hopeful that it will improve on Saturday. It will really depend on the fire behavior activity. But at least I can say that we've seen some improvement, and we'll continue to see some improvement the next few days. If you want to see our outlook, our forecast, you can go to the InsaWeb, the Lookout Fire InsaWeb page, and that's where they post the forecast around 8:30 each morning. So that's where you can get that forecast. And I can relate to you guys in terms of smoke fatigue. I know you dealt with the Cedar Creek fire last year. Of course, what was mentioned, the Holiday Farm. I'm from Northern California, the Redding area. We've had a lot of extended periods of smoke. I will be here afterwards to answer any and all of your questions that you may have.
Good afternoon. My name is Dan Martin, and I'm operations for Northwest Team 6. And I'm going to take you guys around the fire and where it's at right now, and what we accomplished today, and how we're moving forward. So we continue to practice, full suppression action and trying to keep this fire as small as we can on the landscape. Starting on the east side, where we've had the most fire behavior over the last few days. As it was mentioned, we do have some spots over in Budworm Creek and in Frizzell Creek, and we're looking for ways to get around that, how we can potentially catch those spots or move out a little bit away from the spots and put some line in along some of the forest roads that are out there, existing forest roads, as well as some of the fuels work and timber work that's been out there that's going to help us tie some of those lines together. So that's on the west side of the fire, which is also, the east side of the fire, which is also Division Foxtrot, which we just added today, as well as Division Tango and Division Delta. Coming around to Division Bravo and Alpha, that would be the north and the west side of the fire. We've got some pretty good lines established in there. We're staying pretty close to the fire's edge. We'll probably be starting a burnout operation in the next couple of days to get the fire to the fire line, so that we can start mopping that up and securing the west side. Around to the south of Lookout Ridge, we have continued to get our fire line in there. It's getting pretty close to being ready for us to backfire. Looking at potentially even starting that tonight or into tomorrow tomorrow morning after early afternoon. And that would secure the south end of the western part of the fire, taking it around to the south. You can see on the map where you probably, if you've been watching it, the fire was up a little higher on the ridge and then all of a sudden it's right down on the 700 road. That's from our burnout operations a couple of days ago, and we've been mopping that up and trying to secure that edge. And I'm going to let Mark talk about our integrated structure protection work that we're doing. Thanks.
Thanks, Dan. Good evening, everybody. Mark Corliss, Oregon State Fire Marshal, Blue Team, one of the operations chiefs. So while Dan was talking about the wildland portion, they're kind of focusing on the footprint of the fire. The State Fire Marshal came in, like some folks have talked about, and we're going to take care. We're looking at primarily the residences. So everybody that's in a level 3, so from 126 up to the edge of the fire, we've done about 70% prep on that, and I know that prep is kind of one of those words that people don't understand. So we do two kind of preps. We do surface prep and full prep. And so what surface prep is just kind of getting those ember traps away from your house, off your roof, out of your gutters, those kind of things. Where full prep is, we go in and we might remove some smaller brush and stuff that might be right up against your house. So we've had crews in there kind of working on that. And I know that one of the other concerns the PIOs have been bringing up is the triage placards that you guys have seen, the big green ones. And so I know there's been a bunch of questions. I will be here later to talk about that. So if you have questions about that specifically, come and ask me. So we've been up in the HL and HJ Andrews area as well, working with our east and west structure groups from the wildland side. They have folks on helping with the structures. We have folks, we kind of share resources back and forth. So we've been up there doing some work up in the Forest Service land, and we've been working all that 126 corridor all the way out to Belknap and starting to turn that corner and go up and just look at the structures out there. So we'll be here later if you have any more questions.
Do you want me? I'm Rainbow. A lot has changed since our last community meeting, and as promised, we were watching the fire very closely on a local level with our partners, and last weekend we made the decision through the County Fire Defense Board and the State Fire Marshal's Office to call for conflagration early. And it's working exactly how it's supposed to. And those of us that went through Holiday Farm, that was a crazy event, and that was not how a normal fire would progress naturally. This is much better, and we have resources in place, and we've had time to get ready and watch the updates and take care of each other and take care of our own homes and our own businesses. And I'm very, very grateful for the time that we have been given, that cushion of time. And I'm so thankful. I don't even have words to tell everyone how thankful I am for the resources that have come in and the places that they are in this valley. They've covered every inch of the ground, every home. They are looking at every driveway, every home, every roof, every gutter, every business. They are covering all the bases, and our partners on the forestry side are here in force as well, and they are covering that. It's a wonderful, wonderful unified effort, and I just am so grateful. I'm very grateful for all of the community members that have come out tonight, anyone who's watching online, everyone who's engaged. I know everyone is grabbing any bit of information they can, utilizing it wisely. Please ask questions. Please come to the fire station and tell the firefighters thank you. If you see them on the road, wave. They are here. They've left their homes and families to come to our community and protect our houses so that 2020 doesn't happen again. And I am very certain and very confident that we are in a very good place. And I am trusting these teams to do exactly what they have been trained to do. And I just want you all to know that we are in place in the local level as well. We will continue to answer 911 calls, and you see our volunteers scattered throughout the crowd tonight. This is normally our drill night where we train. I said, let's go to the community meeting together, show our support, let everyone know that we're still here. And I just want to be very clear that nothing has changed with that level of service. And thank you to everyone. And we'll get through this together.
Thanks, Chief. Good evening, everybody. Cliff Harold, your Lane County Sheriff. I've been your sheriff for 4 years, and each year we've been engaged in this sort of activity, and so we've learned a lot. One of the things I learned right away is that we want to have good relationships with these folks, and I can tell you that we've worked with this team before. The relationships are really great. We're in constant communication with them, using their expertise, both wildland and structure protection, as far as advice regards to your safety and the safety of your homes. And so we meet regularly, and we're in communication throughout the day so that we can make good decisions on these evacuation zones. And so that's what I'm here to talk a little bit about tonight. I'll run through these real quick, but I think most of you know it, and there's not a lot of detail on this map. But you know that we have homes that are in a level 3 here and here. And that happened early on, obviously, when the fire was real active. And then on the south side of the highway, these are all level 1s. And the only thing new today was that Lynn County installed a level 1 up here, and that's largely a really popular recreation area. And while the fire is a little ways away from there yet, the idea is that we don't want folks who are coming from out of state planning on recreating in that area to come later potentially to have to be evacuated. So that level 1 was initiated today. Let's talk a little bit about what those zones mean. You folks probably know this, but I think we've got slides. Level 1, of course, is really where we want any of you who live up here to be all the time. You live in a wildland urban interface, and it means that you're aware of that fact. And I think probably everybody who's lived up here for the last few years is quite aware of that fact. But we do want you to be thoughtful about these things throughout the year, and know that you have to have a little higher level of awareness. Level 2 is really when we want you to have your car packed. Honestly, you should have a bag packed. You should know where your prescriptions are, your important papers. You should have a plan for your pets. You don't want to be making a decision about what to do for your pets when we hit a level 3. So have some intentionality and purpose in that, and make sure you have a plan for your pets. At a level 2, if you've got family members or if you have concerns about your mobility or ability to relocate, it's probably time to be having a thought about that. You know, if somebody's confined to a bed and is going to need some assistance, then at a level 2, you'd probably be thinking about moving them out of the area. And I don't know that it's particularly relevant in this moment, but at level 2, if you got a bunch of livestock, we've got some folks here from particularly the east side of the state where all of a sudden they're needing to move a bunch of livestock. So at a level 2, you ought to be thinking about those things too. For our Lane County Sheriff's Office, when we have a level 2, we are going to come up and knock on your door. We're going to use all our tools. You know, we have a number of different tools to alert you. At a level 2, we're going to use almost all of our tools. We won't necessarily make everybody's phone scream, but we will have teams of volunteers come up, and we come up and knock on your door, tell you that you're in a level 2, give you some information, receive some information from you if you are going to have some issues or need some assistance to move out. And so we do a little bit of data collection at a level 2. At a level 3, when we go to a level 3, if it's safe for us, we're going to send folks back to your door. But as anybody that was up here in 2020 knows, that's not always possible. 2020, we had folks going in, some of my folks going into some areas that just frankly they probably shouldn't have. So what we always say is at a level 2, we may not be able to come back to your door. So we really, at a level 2, if you don't choose, I'm just going to go ahead and leave now, you really got to be paying attention to all the different sources of information. And then a level 3, of course, is go now. Grab your bag that you've already packed at a level 2. grab your pets, and head out. I want you to know that when we make these decisions, I've been up here regularly because I feel the responsibility for these decisions, and I know what it means to be telling you to leave your house, and that's a pretty big deal. It's a real big deal to me, and these guys that meet with me all the time, they know that it's a big deal to me, and so I just want you to know that I take that responsibility very, very. It weighs heavy on me, frankly, and I want you to know that I take it real seriously. A little bit more about how we make those decisions. So I already shared that they tell us their expertise. They give us access to their fire behavior analyst and all those things. And then some of the factors we take into account are density of population in an area. So we've pre-planned, okay, if the fire does this, then this zone maybe needs to be increased. Well, how many homes are in that zone? How many people are in that zone? How long will it take us to get to every door in that zone? We take all of those factors. Obviously, weather is a factor. So when the winds are really blowing and it moves faster, then we're going to move faster. When it dies down a little bit, then we have a little more time. And then one other factor, you heard one of the ops chiefs talking about backburn, and so you know that sometimes they really do fight fire with fire. So they let us know about that, and so you may be in a zone that's elevated because we know that they intend to do some burning in that area. So that is what's going on there. A couple of questions that we've heard. One is, when you are asked to evacuate, where are you supposed to go? Currently, the Red Cross is set up at the Lowell High School. I know that's not super convenient for y'all. The Belknap fire has been on the landscape longer than Lookout, and so those preparations were already in place. Red Cross has limited staff, so rather than opening up 2 shelters, they opened 1 and asked us to send folks there. Now, I also know that the Red Cross is trying to make a longer time frame plan because school's going to be in session in not too long, and Lowell High School is going to want to use their school. So keep your ears open for a future change, but if something were to happen right now, the Red Cross has that shelter open. We also have the livestock arena down in Eugene open for livestock and or pets. There's a ton of information for you available at the county website, so lanecountyor.gov. It's a yellow banner at the top with all the fire stuff. Click on that. There's a lot of information about resources for you. There's a searchable, you can search your address. If you're not sure what zone you're in, it'll tell you. And then also, if you're not signed up for the county's new alert system, lanealerts.org is where you want to sign up. But you can find that at the county website also. I think I kind of covered it. One of the other questions I was preloaded with is this idea that we have a 3 and a 1 and no 2s. And I guess our brains are kind of designed where we want things to be sequential like that. But in this particular case, as we've consulted with these folks, we've got the highway, we've got all the implements. And I got to tell you, they've worked hard on that southern line. They've been working hard on that for a few days. And so as we've consulted with them, there just hasn't been a reason to put south side of the highway on a level 2. We're going to continue to talk to them. If the weather changes, if something changes, we'll do it. But I guess I just want you to know, of course, we're thinking about that. I think sometimes people look at the map and think, oh, they must have messed up. There's no 2 on there. But that's not the case in this case. And then I also know those of you that are in a level 3 want to know, well, what's it take for that 3 to get back to a 2? And again, that's going to be a combination of all the factors I've already talked about. We're going to continue to talk to these experts when they're real strongly comfort on their southern edge line, when they're real comfortable on what the fire behavior and weather's going to do. Then they know that I want to put you back in a 2 as soon as I can, but also I'm certainly not going to risk anybody's life safety either. So I'm going to check my notes real quick and make sure I hit what I thought I was supposed to. And I think I did. I'll be around later if you have any questions. Thanks.
Can we do one more round of applause for our panel, please? Again, it's important for us to be here. We want to answer all of your questions, so that's the important part coming up real quick here. But first, I want to talk to the folks online. I understand there's been some connectivity issues. We have been recording this entire meeting, and we will post it a little bit later tonight. We do have folks answering your questions online actively, and that'll continue. So if you do have more questions, please feel free to post them, and we're trying our best. We'll get to them. And then as for everybody else, you guys ready to ask your questions to the experts? What I'm going to do, everybody who's staying, if you guys want to find a place on the floor somewhere, get comfy. And then everybody in the stands, again, thank you for being here. We want to answer your questions, so this is your time. If there's somebody you'd like to speak to, please feel free to seek them out. Please watch your step coming down the bleachers. We don't want anyone to trip. We do have medical people standing by, though. But yeah, feel free, you guys. Come on down. I'll be around as well. Thank you.